Welcome to Her Incredible Mind, where we are highlighting some of the most successful women in science, technology, engineering, and math. These women are inspirational leaders, showing resilience in the face of adversity. By sharing these success stories, we hope to gain insight, inspire, and help guide those who are struggling on their journey within this industry. Hopefully, their stories will inspire you or someone you know to pursue a career in STEAM. Let's chat about your role today. How would you describe what you do?
I am a little bit technical, a little bit personnel manager, a little bit mentor. I do some glue work. Uh, it's all over the place, I would say. My official title is director of IT operations, but the term operations, there's so much that goes into that it's tough to pinpoint a single thing that I would even say I focus on these days.
So multitasking is definitely something you're doing all day long. So
yeah.
that's interesting. Does it get tiring with that, or do you feel as if that's part of your personality?
No, that's definitely part of my personality, and it takes me a long time to get into the groove of focused work, and I don't know that if that's a function of doing the multitasking for so many years, like my brain just kind of defaults to that. Mm-hmm. Or if I've always been that way, even as a kid, and that's just how I function. But it takes me like a good solid hour to get into like real deep focused work. So
I wonder if in today's situation with everything that went on with COVID, I think everyone is increasingly experiencing that because we're all spread so thin and we're always working. There's no separation between what we do and work. So trying to change streams quickly is becoming increasingly hard.
Completely. Yeah.
So how would you just describe the role and how you decided on this particular role for yourself?
When you say this particular role, do you mean the one at Broad? Do you mean IT?
I think both. What is it about being in IT that you liked and being at the Broad and how that all came together for you?
Yeah, I love IT because I love solving problems. It definitely started, I was the kid growing up on road trips. I would ask my parents for a logic puzzle book. I wasn't a big reader, but boy, give me a logic, like one of those old books.
Right.
Like train is going 60 miles, like, and so I got into IT because it was just one big logic problem, analytical problem solving skills all day long, every day. So that's what brought me to IT. What brought me to Broad was a need to change. My first IT job was at Boston University College of Engineering, and I worked in that department for 14 years. And I had the opportunity to change, switch over to Broad. And, honestly, I looked at my resume and I was like, I have 14 years of great experience, but I've never left where I started. And does that turn into kind of a knock on my resume? And on, the opportunity to move over to Broad was audacious. Their storage footprint, was massive. It was high performance computing, at a scale that, we couldn't compete at BU College of Engineering. So it was an exciting opportunity, but I was very comfortable where I was. So it was definitely nerve-wracking. But I eventually made the leap because it is Broad. And, I didn't want to pass up that opportunity.
Yeah, it is the epicenter, right? And when you think about it, of the brain trust of engineering and everything that goes into it nowadays, the Broad is, it sets the bar. It really does. So it's interesting with that. So when you're thinking about roles in general and the role that you took in IT, what matters to you most when you take on a role?
I think it's the people, honestly. All the way from who my direct manager will be, to who my peers will be, to who are the people that I manage or I support in a managerial way, to people, outside of the department. The passion at the institute, is one thing that really excited me about Broad in my interviews. The institute exudes this passion. But it was, it was the team of people I got to work with. It was almost as much of an interview for me when I went into interview to get to know them, to hear how excited they were to work at Broad and do the work that they get to do. So it's definitely the people.
I think you're one of the very few people that actually brought that up in the interviews that we've been doing. And I find that is exactly why I take roles. I feel as if I can learn from someone, or they challenge me, or I feel like I can also, challenge someone else, or have them be, part of what I'm learning. That's the biggest part of what I would choose for a role too. I think that that's an innate thing in me, that I love that feeling of working with a team and collaborating, and really, sometimes not agreeing on everything and trying to challenge each other. And it's really a healthy process.
Yeah,
You know,
totally agree. Totally agree. And it makes that it almost doesn't matter then what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, because it makes everything fun.
right.
Like it makes unboxing 500 monitors fun. It makes, it makes crises fun. I have been completely honored to work with some amazing people, and even in the darkest failure modes, we all, everyone comes together, and it's exciting, and in a weird way, it's kind of fun. And you get to look back and you have built these amazing, solid relationships because of those adrenaline spikes. So people, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's a great thing for people to do. And I think one of the harder parts to that kind of, requirement, if you will, for choosing a role is truly more difficult when you're in the interview process, right? So you've got to kind of figure out, in that small block of time, am I going to be a good fit for this organization? Am I going to learn from this organization? Where do I come into view in this organization? What's my long-term path? I think that is something that when you're in those very, very limited interviews, it's hard to wrap your head around all of that.
Yeah, and it is completely driven by the other party, right? I was lucky enough that I think I ended up interviewing with like 14 different people. I had like a ton of interviews. I remember it was like 2 full days of like 30-minute interviews. So that was, I was very lucky because I got to meet so many people from the team and the organization. They could have easily had me do 2 interviews, and I would have gone in kind of blind.
Yeah, I think that the interview process is changing. I think it's evolving. And I think that over time, especially HR has made it more of a casual conversation versus the standard list of questions as you go through the interview process.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most when you're choosing your role? What do you look for in that role?
Definitely a challenge, something exciting. I want to make sure I'm able to succeed, put my kind of stamp on something. Certainly making an impact with the team. I have been a personnel manager for over a decade now, and so making positive relationships with team members, both up, down, horizontal. So again, it's kind of all over the place. It's definitely across the board.
It's interesting. So what do you enjoy most about what you do right now?
Most. I get to do something new. So in my current role, I am able to take on new and audacious challenges. Um, and I think prior to that, it was, here's a set of tasks, go complete those things. Whereas now it's, I need, here's the end state that we're trying to get to, find the right path, build a team, figure out what works, what doesn't, fail fast, go. And that's definitely what I'm enjoying most.
So it seems like the puzzles that your parents picked up for you on the road trips are still being presented to you today,
Yep.
and you're still thriving on solving.
Hopefully.
Right, exactly. So when did you ever decided to make a career change and just go to a different vertical totally?
Yeah. My my undergraduate degree is in communication, from University at Buffalo. My first jobs were in HR, and benefits. And when I moved out to Boston from upstate New York, my first job was in career development. So kind of the other side of the HR was helping students at BU's College of Engineering get jobs. So I was reviewing the resumes and I was doing mock interviews, and I loved it. Like it was a lot of fun, and I got to meet a ton of new people, and I made friends with the IT team because computers break. And so I got to meet them, and I ended up being kind of the IT support person for the floor I was on. So all the other departments on my floor, when their computers would break, I would just go and solve the problem. And then I ended up mentioning that to the director at the time. And I said, I think I'm going to, use the opportunity that having a job at BU presents, which is you get, intense discounts on education. So I went back and got my master's in computer science. And he said, look, if you really like doing this, I'll find a role for you in the IT department. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. The rest is history.
That's awesome. I love when we change the streams. I think that's one of the things that women have a hard time sometimes with, that we blame ourselves for changing the stream, that we think we should have just stayed in the stream and that was it. And I think when we step outside that and we change, we do learn more about ourselves, and I find it more enjoyable that we're really pursuing something that we really wanted to do versus instead of had to do.
Completely. I look back at that decision as one of the um, one of the more critical decisions I made. And who knows what my life would have been had I not made the decision.
Right.
So it's tough to say that it was the right one, but I am certainly happy where I'm at now. So
That's
no
great.
complaints.
That's great. So in your career, obviously you've been successful. You're at Broad. You started at BU. Honestly, you've got pedigree there, right, with two phenomenal institutions. What obstacles, though, do you think you had in your career that were hard for you to overcome, or that you overcame?
Um, there have certainly been times where I have been doubted, and I've had to stand up for myself, stand up for my worth. Those were exceedingly awkward conversations. I'm happy I did it. Um, certainly more recently, I think there's um, maybe a bit of imposter syndrome. Do I deserve where I'm at? Am I working hard enough? Do I know enough technology still to be in IT? So almost more internal struggles as I as I age and as I get tenure in my career. Early on, it was definitely all, you know, proving myself and making sure people understood that I knew what I was talking about, and um, I shouldn't have to work harder to prove that I know what I'm talking about than my male colleagues. Um, and so that was earlier on, and I think now it's more internal struggles.
That's an interesting perspective because I feel the same way. It's one of those things where throughout my career in the beginning, I just wanted to continue to improve and continue to take on more and be successful by a product or be successful via services that I was doing or anything like that. But now today, when I look back on it, it's more about kind of, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I need to be doing? And am I doing what I want to be doing? I think the measurement of your success, of how we view ourselves, changes as we age. Absolutely. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of that, what would you tell your younger self?
To not be afraid to stay close to the technology. I kind of wish I had stayed a little closer to it. It's certainly far enough away that it's an uphill battle to stay on top of all the moving technology in the field. I think, I don't know that I would change much. Be confident, and it's okay to feel confident. There has always been it's weird. I am confident outwardly, but internally I am very nervous to speak in front of large groups. I am very nervous about saying the wrong thing. I am nervous when I talk to my boss's boss. Like there's this unease. And it was worse when I was younger. It's getting better as I'm getting older, but I feel like if I could have felt as comfortable as I do now 10 years ago, where would I have gone? Like how far would I have gone?
That's great. That is definitely great perspective. And it leads me to the question that we, obviously as part of this is being to be able to explain, what is your advice to young girls today?
One, to enjoy what you do. Absolutely. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't take a role because it's a competition. You should take a role because you enjoy it, and it brings you daily joy, because you're going to have to do it almost every day of your existence. So you should at least enjoy it. Be comfortable in your abilities. Don't shy away from being the voice in the room. Don't shy away from speaking up for your opinion if you have one. And be okay with listening too. There's so much to learn, that it is equally important to speak your mind and listen to others when they speak theirs. So I think kind of enjoy what you do and be comfortable doing it in whatever form that takes.
That's great advice, and I think it's very accepting of ourselves, right? And I think that's what girls struggle with sometimes. So that's great, Katie. I really do. I completely agree with what you're saying there. So if you had to sum up who you are on LinkedIn in 3 words, what would they?
Young at heart.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's great.
It gets me in trouble because I think I exude more young at heart than executive presence, when I should probably be exuding executive presence, but I can't help it.
You're authentic to who you are, and that's the best thing that you can be. So, and that's what we're trying to teach these young girls, is to just be yourself.